Hello, welcome back everyone to, let me make sure that's recording. Well, hey, it is. Welcome back to another episode of Catabolic Window podcast. It's episode 71, supposedly, according to Luke. If that's wrong, blame Luke. And today we're going to pretty much do what we always do and improvise things. I need a haircut, that's why I've got a hood on. I'm feeling quite tired from dieting, that's why I've got a little caffeinated tea. And we're going to crack
I
on
thought
from
you
there.
were doing your best Dark Lord impression, mate, with the
No, mate,
Star
that's
Wars
why I put it on my story the other day because King knocked my piercing and it was bleeding. It looks bad.
one.
Because obviously, if it bleeds, you're not allowed to take the scab off because you'll like reopen the cut. You just have to leave it and spray it with this saline solution. So I literally just had like a bloody mess on my face, and I was recording my video and I was like trying to like hide it with my fucking my hoodie over my face. For people listening and not watching, I got my eyebrow re-pierced after it rejected, and yeah, it was a bloody mess. And
Not surprised, mate. You look like a nonce,
I
that's
used
why.
a hoodie to cover it over on an Instagram story. Oh mate.
Did you not think, okay, maybe this eyebrow piercing stuff isn't for me?
No, it was pierced incorrectly. That's why it rejected.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great service, that, mate.
I know, mate. Fucking fuming. I did decide to just get it off the cuff one day, and I went to another piercer to get it taken out because, well, I went to another piercer when it was rejecting to just be like, is there anything else we can do? And she said it needs to come out. And then when she took it out, she was like, oh shit, I'm not surprised it rejected. It's like barely in your face. Like they did not pierce it deep enough. And then she pierced it deep enough, and I was like, ow. Yeah, I can tell the difference there. It fucking kills, man. Really hurt. Right by your eye. Horrible.
Oh, yeah. So, how is the diet going, big man?
It's good. We were talking about this briefly before we started. I feel very low energy. I'm really flat now. I can feel that carbs are low. Hunger's fine. Food focus is there, but hunger is fine. Like, I look in my cupboard at my dark chocolate for meal two, and every time I go in that cupboard, I consider scanning it. And every time I
Oh,
tell myself no.
mate, when I
Um,
was on prep, I literally had about 15 different flavors of dark chocolate.
I've
I was
I've
like, but why did they just stop selling it?
I've pushed my way up to as my food focus increases, I take my dark chocolate darker and darker, so I enjoy it less, if that makes sense. So it becomes less of like a treat. So I'm up to 90%, and
Progressive enjoyment.
yeah, like I started off at 74. I remember in a gaining phase, I did 85, and I literally was like, "This is dirt. This is so
It's
dark."
awful, isn't it?
Yeah. So I did 74 in a gaining phase, and I've slowly, if I had 74 now, it would be like sweet. It would be so sweet that I would be like, I need the rest of that. So I have 90 because it's like it's still nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not so nice that like I finish it and I want more, So I leave it at that 90 mark, but I can feel like my attention is more on food. I think if I had an untracked meal a week, I'd honestly be so calm. And if I had probably about 50 more rice, I'd feel pretty good. But
That
um,
is 50 grams, mate.
Tom is me and Tom have a catch up midway through the check-in week, and if scale weight's stored, and he says if it hasn't shifted, we're going to drop cardio for a bit, just to see if we can get a bit of a clear of inflammation. But I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a bit dieted. I don't feel horrendous. I'm not in the bin. I can still function, but I don't feel as bouncy as usual. I'm starting to feel it.
Yeah, you are a boring cunt today, to be fair.
Yeah, brother. Mate, I've done 8 check-ins this morning and recorded 2 videos already. So this is like, and now I've got to do an hour podcast. Luckily, it's a rest day. It wasn't meant to be a rest day, but my knee went bang, so it's a rest day.
My knee went bang.
Yeah, I did a normal leg day. I did 1 set on the pendulum and was like, nah, off. So it's pretty much back there now. I reckon come end of the week it'll be fine, but this kind of thing happens, when you're coming back from injuries, particularly as you get leaner. Um, but I mean, there's not much I could have done to really mitigate it. It is what it is, you know. I can still do
Yeah,
my cardio, so fat loss is still happening. So I'm pretty happy.
fair play. Fair play. Yeah, I've just been writing next week's content today.
Fair.
That's been all right. I filmed a YouTube video yesterday, so that's going to be shit and uploaded next week.
If you need an editor, hit me up. We've got one affiliated with the academy now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is it who I think it is?
Who do you think it is?
Marcham?
No,
Or is
it's
it somebody
Chloe.
else? Oh, fair.
Marcham's a videographer associated with the academy.
Oh, I see. Right.
Chloe,
Okay.
Chloe's my editor because Marcham was like, I don't really like editing. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just get my missus to join the academy then, do some editing for people.
So yeah, I hate it, man. Hopefully, it shouldn't be too bad. So what I'm going to do is I've recorded some talking bits, and then I've recorded some B-roll that I'm going to talk over, and then I'll just talk over the training footage. So it's just like putting them in order, and then waiting about 7 years for the fucking captions to transcribe. Basically, is the
We
plan,
love to
mate.
see it. We love to see it, mate. So the
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
content you got to be doing.
So Academy, what the fuck's going on with that, mate?
Oh, are we doing that episode today?
Give me the rundown. What
All right.
episode? What are you talking about, mate?
Fuck
We
it,
haven't
we'll talk.
planned this.
Right, so the academy is it's an add-on to like standard online coaching. Basically, it's not a replacement. Because I get a lot of interest from coaches, as I'm sure you do as well, man. And I get a lot of clients who've been with me for a while saying that they want to coach or PT, and I want to be able to support that. And I wanted to expand out to more than just online coaching, and so I'm doing a bit of education as well. So essentially, if you join up with the team, you've got the option of the standard athlete tier, lifestyle, whatever you want to do, bodybuilding, whatever. If you go to my if you go to my bio, there's two links: one to inquire for coaching and one to inquire for the academy. The academy includes coaching, but you can have either or both, right? You can be a coach, you can be an athlete, or you can be both. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But the academy is a website and an app, kind of like a web members site, but a bit flashier. It's got a whole bunch of sheets and free materials and resources, a bunch of back end shit to help you manage being a coach, social media, finances,
I love your
client
back end,
retention.
mate. It's great.
Yeah, bruv. Oh yeah, the back end. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of shit to help you manage, your social media, your finances, client retention. There's shit to help you be more productive as a coach. There's shit to help you give meal ideas and training ideas. There's a whole bunch of tutorials and lectures and videos. So the whole idea is about giving people the tools and the knowledge to become a better coach, as well as one-to-one calls with me where there's a pre-made syllabus, but they can also interject with their own topics, and we can run through some shit about how to get better at coaching. And the idea is, as I say it all the time, you're going to know more shit, you're going to grow more muscle, and you're going to be able to use those two to coach more people by being better at marketing.
Have you got bored of your own slogan already?
Yeah, I'm sure people are fucking sick of it. It's on everything. I'm hammering it home. It's in the bio as well. You know what it is.
It's in the bio as well. So is it? It's on Signal, not Signal. Fucking Circle, right?
No. I use an alternative to Circle because I actually use a more expensive service than Circle. Thank you very much.
Oyo.
Yeah, Circle's fine. I spoke to a few people, and it seems like most people are moving away from Circle, which I'm more than fine with. It definitely feels a lot tidier and a lot flashier than Circle, which is nice. You can set like quizzes and challenges, which is pretty cool. You can set I could make a course as well if I wanted to. So currently it's just a bunch of like freeform videos, but I might make like a coaching 101 course or like basic to advanced coaching course, where people can like enroll in the course and do it like PT project kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I know that's what a couple of the things that they've done at the PT project with the courses, but the quizzes is a cool feature because so many people like watch something and then think they've learned it all.
Yeah.
And they never need to like actually test any of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, watching it is the first step. Then you need to like revise what you're doing. And like when I was learning the skeleton anatomy, I do like a new muscle every day. And then I'd go through all the ones that I'd done previously and revise it.
Yeah.
And now, there's probably a couple that I might have forgotten or I'd have to Google again. But most of them are still up in here because I've practiced it 50 times.
Yeah.
Remember it. And then every so often I'll be talking about it with a client and then we'll run through it again, sort of in my brain. But yeah, you need to like check that you actually know the shit that you think you know.
Mate, 100%. That's why I've got the live calls as well. because just giving someone like well, there's some topics that you just can't give over a pre-recorded call, and there's going to be questions that people have. And the beauty of it as well is all of the live calls I don't make the materials for until a week or two ahead of time, and I don't reuse materials
Unorganized, mate.
because like, depending on who you're talking to, the knowledge that you give and the emphasis that you give on that knowledge and the value that you give is going to depend. So if I'm talking to someone who's mainly working with athletes, their approach to, like, this is very fucking surface level, don't get me wrong, but it's still a good example. If I'm working with someone who primarily works with athletes who do aerobic training, when I'm talking about setting out macro splits, it's going to be much more favorable towards fats rather than carbohydrates. But then if I'm talking to someone who's more bodybuilding focused, if they're working with enhanced bodybuilders, it will probably be more carbohydrate dominant on training days, and then potentially based on health issues and hormonal issues, we might have more fat focus on rest days. So, just saying like, oh, here's the range of fats that I tend to sit between is cool, but then how do you actually apply that in the real world, and how do you, like, talk to clients and communicate that to clients, and how do you work that into real life situations is the key missing element. And again, on calls, we do case studies where I'll say, bring me a client to talk about. We'll talk about your decision making, we'll go through them, look at some of the check-ins, and we'll go, okay, here's why what you're doing is working, or what you could do to improve, and touching on some of the theory and how to actually apply it. Because, it's all well and good being like, oh yeah, you want a lot of carbs in, for this person. But then if that person says, I'm getting really lethargic, having issues with digestion, things are getting expensive, whatever, how do you work around that? That's the missing piece that I think a lot of coaches struggle with, and I definitely struggle with that in the early days. Is you've got this knowledge over here, but the client's over here, and how the fuck do you bridge that gap?
So the calls, are they like one-to-one, or are they like a group thing that people? Okay, right. So
Always
what's the structure of that? Like, how frequent are they? Because you mentioned you've got like a syllabus for it.
Yeah, so it's one every 4 weeks, just because I thought about doing them a bit more frequently. And the issue is, if you run them too frequently, you don't give people enough time to digest that information. And you have to bear in mind that each and every week there's new videos, pre-recorded videos being added to the academy. So in a month, you're going to get, like 1 or 2 sheets or services or materials for you to use as a business owner. You're going to get 4 videos for you to like look at, watch through, take notes on, and kind of learn over. And you're getting a live one-to-one call. And so it kind of gives people a bit of space to breathe by not just like overwhelming them. And that's why I'm quite flexible with the syllabus and the topics that we cover, because I'm not going to be like, if I take on an advanced coach and they say, I want to do nutrition, when we're not going to start off with macros. We might talk about like fucking fiber consumption, fiber type, and talking about digestive enzymes and the value of understanding nutrient timing and partitioning and insulin sensitivity. Like, that's what we might get into straight off the bat. Whereas if I've got someone who's brand new to coaching, it'll be like, okay, how do you work out calorie intake? And that new coach might need 3 calls on calorie intake and how to actually do it. So I'm quite flexible with how things go. But yeah, once a month.
Right. I see what you mean. So yeah, that's one of the big issues that I've had with a couple of mentoring things I've done in the past, which is like, okay, you've joined now, here's 100 videos, just sort of like go. Just go and do it. Something. Whereas, yeah, you need to look at like where, and it's the exact same thing with physique coaching, of looking where somebody is at and starting from that. If you've got somebody that's never fucking trained or tracked a macro before, giving them like a fucking bodybuilding style plan is not going to work out very well, because they don't have the tools to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And different people are going to have different strengths and weaknesses that they want to work on, or different people are going to have different backgrounds and goals within coaching. Like if we're talking about someone who's a PT, or like I said, that kind of more sports background, like a fucking PE teacher could sign up. And what a PE teacher is looking to do, it's going to be very, very different to like, someone who's trying to be the next like Callum Pro coach, right? The topics that we cover are going to be very, very different, because already you're talking about very different like types of clients. You've got clients who have to be there, like if we're talking about a PE teacher, because they're in school, they're forced to kind of do it. Whereas we're talking about, high level bodybuilders who are paying you to increase their progress even further, and they're probably going to be, plateaued amateurs. So what do we do there? So yeah, the whole key, like you touched on a very good point there. If you just overload people with information, it's not very useful. Um, and also you kind of need a direction of like, okay, here's where you start, here's how I would do things. Um, and yeah, that's far more useful than just kind of treating everyone the same. I'm sure you've signed up to educational courses as well, where you do a nutrition one, and the first course is like, why do we eat food? We eat food because we get hungry and we need energy. And like the first 2 weeks are like complete fucking nothing. And you're like, oh my God, get to the bit where I actually get value from this. Which
Yeah, and
also,
it's just fucking mind numbing going through it as
yeah,
well. You're like, okay, right, this is very basic. I'm very bored. And then there's also stuff in there which is like seemingly irrelevant. Like I know some
yep.
people that have done nutrition degrees and they've got like a whole fucking module on how sausages are made.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My
Why?
my
Why?
nutrition course I did ages ago started talking about anatomy of the heart because it was talking about macro, like how macros get absorbed into the bloodstream and capillaries and capillary structure, and I was like, okay, that's interesting, that's valuable. Then it was talking to me about how these macros then pass through the blood and how that blood then pumps through the anatomy of the heart, and I'm like, that's cool to know, but I don't actually need to know the anatomy of the heart and like the different atria and ventricles in order to like program nutrition. Like I'm here to be a nutritionist. That's like, I'm not going to be like, oh, when that blood passes that left ventricle, I'm going to give them tuna. Like, it's just
Uh,
like a bit of padding because they're like, oh yeah, we want the course to be this much money and it's got this much. It's so dense of information, so we charge more. And half the information they put in there is like, that's cool, but don't teach me that and don't examine me on that because I'm not actually going to fucking use it.
right. Okay. So say somebody inquires to join the academy. What does like the setup process look like for that?
So
Like
assuming
what?
that they also want physique coaching, there's going to be
No,
different
they
setup
definitely
forms.
don't, mate. They definitely don't.
If I can do it if they want physique coaching or not, but there's
Yeah,
different
yeah.
setup
Do it
forms.
as do it the most common way that it occurs.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess.
usually alongside physique coaching, and I usually recommend getting physique coaching alongside because again, it just gives us another avenue of practical applications of what we're doing. So if I'm making a certain decision, I can be like, oh, here's the lecture on why I'm doing this. I can give you a quick run through of like, here's why I'm doing this, but here's a full detailed lecture. Or also, if we're covering a certain type of idea or topic, I can relate what we're doing to that topic. I think as well from like a marketing perspective, this thing I do a lot with coaches, like know your audience. We're coming into summer now. If you're a coach and you're working with Gen Pop and you're not currently dieting, you're really missing a trick because having that relatability of I'm currently going through a pre-summer diet, much like you guys are, here's why mine's much more successful than yours and I look better than you, right? It's a great way of marketing. Like to give Omar a shout out, for example, like Omar's at uni, he's dieting himself through uni, so he can easily talk about like, here's how I'm dieting through uni, here's how I'm managing that, here's how I'm continuing to build muscle, and he's getting clients off the back of that simply by me just going, hey man, you're going to diet for summer. Like it really is that simple, and just helping him manage his own issues and what kind of speed bumps present in his life. Those were issues before that he either ignored or just kind of thought were part of the process or didn't know how to deal with. Now, when he sees that similarly happen to his clients, he knows how to deal with those because he's dealt with those himself. So I always advise getting physique coaching alongside. If you've already got a physique coach, that's fine. Obviously, I'm not going to come in and poach. But if you're self coaching,
I do it. Fuck it. It's fine.
if you're self coaching, I'd really encourage you to remove that bias because self coaching to me, especially early on, Luke, you'll be on this, don't worry. If anyone who's going to call me a hypocrite for saying this and then letting Luke self coach, I think it's very much Chinese whispers when you're starting off because your own biases and
Not
attitudes.
allowed to call it that, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, true. Well, we did this before, didn't we?
We
We
called
called it
it,
like
yeah, we called it Eastern small talk
Eastern
before.
small talk. Yeah, because
I'm convinced that's worse. I'm
oh yeah,
convinced that's worse.
for sure that is worse.
But
Do
it's
you know what I
funny.
mean though? Where like your own ideas of what works and what doesn't work just gets exaggerated over time as you avoid shit that you already think is somewhat negative, and then you don't go anywhere near it. I was meant to answer what happens when people sign up. You get a form. You get a form. You give me all your information. because I'm a greedy little man. And then we'd have a call off the back of that, and we'd lay out some plans, both for physique and for coaching. We'd I'd get you onto the academy, and I'd highlight some videos and topics and materials that are going to be of specific interest to you. We get a first call booked in, and then we get the physique coaching rolling, exactly how a lot of you would expect. And then alongside that, I would basically give you, different videos and topics and stuff to watch. We would book in that first call to have a live one-to-one, and we plan ahead what we're going to cover and probably map out the first 10 calls. And then in that meantime, you would just let me know how you're finding things. We'd have specific catch updates. You can send me looms, you can send me check-ins, you can send me form feedback that you've sent to other clients or you've given to other clients. You can send me pretty much anything going on in your business, and I'll have a look through and give some advice. And then, we would, have back and forths of, okay, here's your check-in, here's how physique's going. By the way, try and watch these videos. I might quiz you a little bit on some of the videos that we previously watched. But you've got me there in your back pocket the entire time, to say, if a client is you're not quite sure what to do with this client, you're not quite sure what to do there, you can just send me a message, and essentially you've got a constant second opinion of what you could do to generate more success. You don't have to just take the videos and guess. You can say, and my coaches do this, they'll say, hey Jack, here's what I'm thinking for this client, here's why I'm thinking it, can you give me a quick rundown of maybe why that's a good idea and why it's not? And I can be like, okay, here's what we're doing, here's what we don't do. Or say a client misses a check-in, or they just don't fucking listen. How do we go about that? Again, that's where I come in.
Cool in the pun. Works every time.
Yeah, double their price generally is the advice.
Oh, mate, we haven't done that in a while.
I know.
I haven't said that in a while. Listeners will have been concerned that we haven't been doubling prices.
That should have been my slogan: double the knowledge, double the growth, double the coaching, or something. Instead of no more, grow more, coach more.
No, I don't think it's got the same ring to it. Oh my days! Oh my days!
Double
right,
the growth,
okay.
Double the price.
So is the like academy side of stuff integrated into like their physique check-ins if they're doing both, or like is it an extra section at the end of it, or is it like a separate check-in every so often? Obviously, like WhatsApp support here or there for stuff in the week, but how does that work?
So they're somewhat separate. Obviously, we're bearing in mind like what our goals are. But when it comes to your own physique development progress, that doesn't necessarily have to go hand in hand with, what your clientele are. Like, let's say that you're a bodybuilder, but you're trying to work with Gen Pop, well, then you can't just, start to diet at the drop of a hat because you've got other things going on. In the sheets, there is a link to the syllabus and there's a link to the academy where you can see all the videos there. And there is space in the check-in as well to kind of say, hey, I've watched these videos and, what videos can you send me next? So yeah, they are somewhat linked, but they're about as, again, the main goal is to be as streamlined and as helpful as possible. So they're about as linked as that client necessarily needs them to be. Because if what you're doing in physique is very unrelated to what you're coaching or what your clientele are doing, there's no need to link them. But they do come somewhat pre-linked. But if one starts to hold back another, then obviously they get unlinked. But yeah, they are joined together in the sheets.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I get you, bro. I get you. Okay. This is me thinking of another question. Is there anything like when you were first putting the academy together that you thought would be a good idea that hasn't turned out to be a good idea?
Oh.
You thought like, yeah, this is going to work nicely, and it's like, yeah, actually, no, it hasn't.
There's nothing that I've not so yet. Like, there's a few things that I do want to add that I haven't been able to add yet, just
like
because.
What? Give us the podcast exclusive.
So there's 2 affiliates of the Archer Academy. There's a videographer and an editor. So if you go through the academy, you get a steep discount on both of those, which is pretty cool. So if you're already an academy member, and you're trying to make some content, you can save a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
The goal is at some point to have those people salaried and come on and be included in the price. So at some point, the goal is when you join. That. Yeah, I know. So when you join the academy, it's like, okay, you're entitled to 10 reels per month, or 4 YouTube videos per month or whatever, included in the price. So we'll help you make content as well. The only other thing I'm trying to chase is a graphic designer to affiliate with the academy as well. There's nothing else really out
Hey,
there.
I've got an idea,
What?
right? Clone yourself, and then you can do the graphic design. Job done.
I've thought about doing it, but I don't want to spread myself too thin. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's also like how much is it something that you actually enjoy as
yeah,
well.
no, I'd rather like I'd rather coach and educate than graphic design, to be honest. But yeah, at some point I'd like to bring on a graphic designer. And again, I want all of this to be like included in the package, so you don't just get access to myself, you get other people. I want to do some guest speakers as well, guest lectures. I think that'd be cool. Um, yeah, bro, I know.
Let's go.
That's why
You
I'm
just
bringing it
chat
up.
shit.
But just have people who have like specific topics that they're very very good at. Like for you, for example, anatomy and biomechanics would be great. Just to have you on and kind of do like a couple calls, and just like pay you for your time and get a
We do
bit
a
more.
live demonstration of anatomy, like preferably naked. I think
Yeah.
that would work
Oh,
better.
yeah, mate. Oh, yeah.
No, we have to be lean for that. That's not going to work.
But yeah, something like that would be great. Obviously, I'm referring to the nudity and not the guest speakers there. That's what would be great.
Absolutely.
Um,
Nudity is always good. If you aren't getting your clients to do nude check-ins, you're really missing a trick,
yeah,
honestly.
you are. But yeah, I think that would be that would be a cool one though to get like
Mate, if someone listens to this podcast for the first time, they're going to be so confused. I posted, you know the sarcastic reels that we've got?
yeah, yeah.
I posted one of those on YouTube, and this guy was like, awful advice. I'm like, dude,
Bro,
come on.
obviously.
Obviously sarcastic.
Oh, mate.
And they're saying, get so lean, your dick doesn't work. I'm like, really? Like, really? How is that? I hate the human race.
Mate, YouTube doesn't get sarcasm. I think most likely people who don't get the sarcasm, it's because they're not British. I think it's a very British thing to be this sarcastic. They are a lot
Yeah,
of fun
that's
though. Those reels are great. Honestly, they're so funny.
all right. All right. What were we talking about? Graphic designer, and then we got derailed.
Yeah, there was to answer the question. There's nothing that I've really pushed the boat out on that I've thought, oh, I can't do that yet. Um, so far, everything's going pretty much to plan. It's not really. This has been something that I've thought about for a very very long time. So there's nothing in there that I've really like. The only thing I can imagine going wrong is salarying people. Like if I just, let's say that like videography is getting a lot of attention, then if I were to salary Marcin and bring him on, and then if it were to drop off, and then it's like, now I'm losing money for no reason. That's the only
Mm.
thing that I can really think of as kind of being a potential thing that could go wrong. But so far,
Yeah,
nothing's gone wrong.
you definitely have to think through like the setup of that,
Yeah.
and how it's going to work.
Yeah, for now we've kind of briefly discussed it, and we said for now we're just going to do an affiliation, um, where like if I bring him business, he does it at a discounted rate, and it's the same for the editing, and but we'll see in terms of like the future. It would be good, and I'd like to bring on other coaches as well, to be a part of the academy and sort of like grow it out and expand it, and like bring other people on full time. And same for physique coaching as well. Like I'd love to have a female coach to kind of work with, give women a space where they can feel a bit more comfortable. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do coach women, but you're always going to be missing out a little bit by being a male coach. It's gonna make
Mate, it's
some
2020. It's 2024. Men can have vaginas.
but
What are
I
you
don't
talking
have a
about?
menstrual cycle though. I do have a vagina, but I don't have a menstrual cycle. So
Makes sense.
it's
Makes
the thing.
sense.
Like as much as I can talk
We're
about,
so getting cancelled.
as much as you can talk about as a coach, like here's like okay, you're pre-cycle. Here's probably what's going on. It's like you've never
It's the
experienced it,
same.
so
It's the same thing as like say trying to be a prep coach when you've never competed or never
yeah.
taken anyone through it. Like the experience does speak volumes,
Well,
whether it be going through it yourself or helping a lot of other people with it.
yeah, I think it's more so being like a prep coach who's never prepped, but you've got experience prepping people.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
it's like, yeah, you've got a lot of anecdotal information, but you haven't personally experienced it, so it doesn't seem to be that much of a barrier. It's just something that is on my radar as like this would be very cool to do, because if I were to add another coach to the Archer Academy or to my physique coaching, it would probably be someone who has a different perspective, but similar knowledge, but a different perspective than myself. I'm not quite sure who. Maybe more of a lifestyle focus, but again, that's not really the direction of the brand. So
Yeah, it needs to be like a slightly different area for it to be some. You almost want to look at it as being something that they can do better than you can,
yeah,
for it
yeah,
to be like for it to be worth it type thing.
yeah. The only like niches that I don't cover are really niches that I don't want to cover. You know, like, oh, I could do like I could have like a powerlifting coach as part of it, but it's like, well, it's not really where the business aligns to, and now we're starting to water it down a little bit. But I think
Yeah,
having like
it really muddies the water of like what you do type thing.
yeah, exactly. I think in particular a female coach to do a PED use, because that's something that I do not touch. I don't touch
Anavar, mate,
female PEDs.
simple. Give them Anavar.
Anavar and
Works.
Primo, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But that
If
would be
they end
good.
up with a beard, it's fine.
Yeah. What do you mean? Just be like, oh, you're half of me. You can have half my cycle. There you go. Bosh.
Makes sense. Works every time.
But double the clen for some reason.
Double the fan all the time. Yes.
I've heard some clen horror stories with female athletes.
Oh God, go on.
I was talking to a close friend of mine who's also called Luke. This isn't something that he did; it's something that he heard. It was an
I think I know
IFBB.
who you mean.
It was an IFBB pro, and you know how I don't know if you I don't know how much about clen you do know, but the longer that you take it, the safer that it gets as your body kind of adjusts to those massive bumps in heart rate, and sort of your resting heart rate slowly starts to increase. It's like the only stimulant where staying on it for a longer period of time is considered safer. It's quite interesting in that regard. But anyway, someone worked their way up to like 160 and then 240 micrograms, and that's about 2 or 3 times what most people dose it as, which is insane. I mean, they were
What's
an
the
IFBB pro.
LD50 of Clen?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Have they worked that out?
I don't know because it's going to change at that dose. But that guy
Yeah.
Luke, my shout out Luke Harris, he was telling me about a study that they did on people with heart issues, taking 3 milligrams, so 3,000 micrograms of clen, and they saw no issue, which is fucking. I'm like, I don't believe that. The data must be skewed. But
That's
he
crazy.
was telling me about it, and it's like that's really interesting because we sit at like 80 microgram, 20 to 80 is where most people dose at, and he's talking about a study on 3,000. It's really interesting to see. But Joe Jeffrey's the guy to talk to about clen.
Yeah, he's got an ebook on Clen, hasn't he?
He does. It's very good.
Yeah. Right, we've got derailed again. Love Clen. I'm sure there'll be a lecture on Clen. What was I going to say?
The lecture is just do it.
Just take more, always.
Double it.
The entire PED section is double the dose.
Yeah, to be fair.
So with the, like you mentioned, the guest lecture stuff, would that be like a hour-long live call that's at this date, or is that going to be like a pre-recorded thing that just goes out to people?
It depends on what interest is. I mean, I can imagine an hour-long live call and then chopping it up would be quite good. Yeah, something like that would be good. But I think it would be nice to bring in different perspectives on a thing, just because the goal of the academy is to make people better coaches, and I think part of that is acknowledging as much as possible your own internal bias. And if I'm the only educator there, as much as I try to remove bias, there's going to be some bias to some degree. And so, you know, even when I talk about like why I would do something or why I wouldn't do something, I try to give scenarios where it would make sense to do that and sort of go against my own knowledge and what I typically would do. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to bring in people like with specific niches of really like of specific interests as well, and kind of from different backgrounds.
Yeah, because bias is looked at as like this really bad thing that you shouldn't have any of, and it's like what it actually is almost a predetermined way of doing things based on what's worked well in the past. So like that, you've got a good reason for doing it, but where people fall down is when they're trying to apply that to a situation that doesn't quite work, like what we were talking about earlier with somebody who's doing a lot of cardiovascular training versus like hypertrophy bodybuilding focus.
Yeah. Because of acknowledging bias and kind of trying to give people an insight into why perhaps I have a particular bias, it does mean the videos are quite detailed. Like I did a 10-minute video today alone on just protein selection in terms of how much protein do you eat in a day,
Just
because
chicken breast
because
or fish. Fish works as well.
it
Just like
thins the
white fish
skin,
and
bro.
white.
Thins the skin. But because people commonly hear like 1 gram per pound, and I was like, okay, yeah, I generally sit around 1 gram per pound. But here's perhaps why we'd sit lower. Here's perhaps why we'd sit higher. And here's some situations where I've done both. And here's the outcome of those. And, whenever I tell people, here's generally what I would do, I try not to say good or bad. I say, here's generally what I would do. And then within that, say, here's some examples of when it makes more sense, arguably, to not do this, to sit outside this range. So, fats, here's the range we sit within, here's why lower might perhaps work well, here's why higher may perhaps work well, and here's how you would figure that out, and kind of go into that nuance. Because ultimately I don't have an issue with people having bias and having a preference. I think as long as you're not avoiding doing something, I'm happy. I think leaning towards something and tending to do something that you see be successful time and time again is great. But if you are not open to doing something differently, if you're not open to, whenever you program for a client, you can program them similar ways, just as long as you acknowledge that's what you're doing and you're able to back up why. Because sometimes you do get two of a similar client. You get two 20-year-old men who, train in the same gym. They've got the same amount of free time. They both want 5 days a week. They both are, going into an off season. They're probably going to have a similar training plan. Like they've got similar goals, similar access, similar personality, similar age, similar needs. But so it might make sense to it would be weird to make one on an entirely different split or frequency to the other, because then you're just trying to vary things for the sake of variety. But
Yeah.
it's also important to acknowledge that, okay, why the fuck are you giving Susan 54 the same as Jake 24 when she's trying to lose a bit of stomach fat? And
mate, Susan needs top set back off, I'm telling you.
Yeah, exactly, mate. But yeah, so bias is fine, and it's always going to be in everything that you do. And so I try and make a real habit out of just unbiased knowledge, laying it on the table, and kind of saying, take your pick, because I think that is the best way to do something. And then obviously when it comes down to talking about clients and one-to-one, and talking to coaches about, oh, you've got client Susan, let's talk about what you're doing with her. That's where I'd probably be a bit more decisive of the range of options that you have is narrowed, because now we're talking about a real person. You still have options within this, but you have significantly less, because there are no hypothetical questions here. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah. That's why the case study client example thing is really useful, because that's where you can go much more definitively. This is right and this is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. We can sit here all day long and say there is no best quad exercise, because what if one hurts you and what if one doesn't? What if you prefer one and what if you don't? Whereas if we have a real person, we've got Jake who's 20. What's the best quad builder for Jake? Oh, well, we can already start to narrow it down. Well, can he do squatting patterns and pressing patterns pain-free? Oh, he can. Then those are going to be superior to leg extensions, just flat out off the bat. But if we've got Jake's injured, okay, well now obviously that changes the answer, but it's still more definitive. This is why and I think people like to forget about this with exercise and nutrition in general. It is completely fucking meaningless, and there is no such thing as good or bad until we apply it to someone. Because I saw a debate happening at my gym where they were talking about, which is more quad dominant, or which is better for quads, a leg extension or a squat. He was like, oh, if you had to do 10 sets a week, which one is more quad? And I said, there is no such thing as a barbell back squat.
It's a fucking stupid question.
Exactly.
Though. Because you're never going to be limited to that.
Exactly. Well, yeah, first of all. But second of all, how are we performing them? Who, the who of who interacts with this is what makes or breaks that question.
Because, mate, you can make a leg extension a hamstring curl if you just fucking stand the other way around into it.
Exactly. That's the thing. And you can make a back squat into a fucking hip thrust and a good morning.
Yeah.
Or you could make them both super quad dominant, or you could make one extremely painful. And so this is the thing, you can't talk about exercise or nutrition in a vacuum. It's like when people say what's a healthy food? I'm like, well, I can give you some examples, but again, it's going to come down to what's your lifestyle like? What have you eaten that day? Because if I say olive oil is great, it's got great fats in it, but you've scrammed a pizza this morning, okay, well, you know, maybe that's no longer our best bet. Maybe I'm going to say something less calorie dense. And that's the thing is, you can't in a vacuum say what's good or bad. It's only when a person interacts with it do you get a greater idea, and even then, not a clear idea, but a greater idea of which way to steer. You know, me and Luke doing the same tricep exercise is going to end very, very differently for either one of us. You
I
know,
feel attacked.
same for quads. Same for quads. Um,
Fair.
but I mean, you know, if we both did like an overhead extension and a leg extension, and that was our, you know, we did that 3 times a week. I'd get knee pain, Luke would get elbow pain, my triceps would grow, and his quads would grow. But
Yeah, yeah.
we're both battered and growing in different places. But you know, we're similar ages, we've got similar goals, so why isn't it giving us the same outcome? Well, because there's some differences there.
It's very, very true, mate. Very true. So last thing, is there anything you want to mention about the academy that we haven't covered so far?
I think the only thing that I'll quickly touch on is the most important feature of the academy is that there's a whole bunch of tabs along the left hand side, and you can pick, you know, group chat, announcements, Q&A, you know, materials, lectures, videos, whatever, live calls, whatever. The most important one is the one at the very bottom, request a feature. There is an option for you to request anything that you want, because the goal of the academy at the end of the day is it's still results driven. If I get you on for 5 or 6 months and I don't make you a better coach, I have failed. So my goal is for that academy to be as physically useful as possible. I want people to say, holy shit, this is so fucking affordable, what the fuck? You need to charge double. That's the goal. So in that tab, you can request, can I get a video on this? Can I get a call on this? Can I get a material on this? Do you want a lead tracker? Do you want custom sheets? Do you want a social media manager? By the way, I've got all of those things. But for example, if you wanted anything like that, if there's anything you can think of, let's say you're a High Rocks coach and you're like, I want help with High Rocks programming. Okay, sweet, I'll make a video on it. Like, if there's anything that you in particular want that's going to make you a better coach, you can request it. None of the Archer Academy is set in stone. There is a guide, there is a flow, so that if you're not sure where to get started, there is a clear idea. But at any stage, you can interject with what you want to focus on to get your business prioritized. And when I say business, it's not a business mentorship. It's all about becoming a better coach. Because at the end of the day, if I gave you some smart marketing and got you 10 clients, but you're a wank coach, they're not going to stick, and it's going to give you a horrible reputation. So my focus is very much on improving your performance and your physique, using that as marketing, and using your client success as marketing. Because if I make you a better coach, you're going to get faster clients, you're going to get faster client results, you're going to get better attention. That means more money, and that means better marketing. Because ultimately, even if you're crap at marketing, if you're a great coach, you're going to do well.
Bish, bash, bosh. Jeez.
Bosh, mate.
Nailed it.
The caffeine from the biscuit tea is carrying me through right now. Jesus.
What biscuit tea is it?
It's from Aldi.
Is it the jam on toast one?
No. Do you like my Star Wars mug, by the way? No, it's just a generic biscuit tea.
Start the podcast, mate.
What's that?
The Star Wars mug.
Oh yeah, listeners, I've got a Star Wars mug. No, it's meant to be ginger nut, but obviously I drink it black, so it tastes like shit. Because I've not got the calories to spare, bruv.
Oh, not ideal.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
1900, rough.
You'll be okay. I think we call it a day there.
All right then. I think we do. Yeah. For all inquiries, go on Instagram, hit up LacticAddictLuke coaching, or just LacticAddictLuke if you're after some top tier physique coaching. I'm sure you're all sick of hearing about my business, but if you do want to hear from me, it's JackArcherCoaching on Instagram. We're currently in the midst of trying to get a few more guests on. So if there's any guests that you guys want to see, do let us know, because that would be fantastic to hear some interaction on. If there's any returning guests that you want to see, at some point we'll do some more returning guests. If you've made it this far on the podcast, tag us on your story and just comment price doubled, and that'd be great. Anything else you want to say, mate?
Could we get an eyebrow reveal?
Eyebrow? What, right now?
Yeah.
It's not that bad, actually. I need to trim.
Oh.
There you go. There's a little bit of black scabbing.
Oh, yeah, yummy.
There's a little bit of scabbing. You can see, if you're a listener, you're going to have to go to the video and watch. Can you see that little mark there? That's from the
Yeah,
old
yeah.
piercing.
I've got a permanent,
Oh,
I know I've got a permanent scar on my eyebrow now from the old piercing.
I rate it.
Look
That's
how
cool.
much my face has come in though.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
room is warm. I look pink, but anyway.
Face is looking lean, mate.
I know, I'm less fat. Someone came up to me in the gym, was like, "You look less fat," and I was like, "Cheers, mate, thank you." I hope so. I'm hungry.
What are you? Like 15 pounds down?
Ooh, less than, only 13, which is crazy. I know. You see my pictures. I'm quite happy with that for £13. I some ridiculous
Yeah, man.
recomps. I'm doing a Leon. The recomp has been good. I'm happy.
Just keep recomping.
Yeah, recomp all the way to prep at this point. Fucking hell.
That's what Dory says. Just keep recomping. Let's go. Right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will speak to you soon. Share it on your stories, you prick. Go and watch my YouTube video that will be out probably today,
What's
the day
your
that you're
YouTube
listening
name, mate?
to this. LacticAddictLuke, because I'm inventive. Go and leave a hate comment if you hate it. It boosts me up in the algorithm. Cheers.
It does, to be fair. Thanks, everyone. See ya.